When I put together story videos, every once in a while, I look at one and go, wow, this is really cool story. But I also look at it and sometimes go, is anyone actually going to click this? This video is an example of that. It's about something I don't know if anyone will click, which we'll get into in a second. But if you enjoy this video, if you enjoy Call of Duty story videos, all I ask is that you hit the like button on this video and maybe share this one with a friend, because let me tell you, this story is cool. Now, this one goes back to many different Call of Duty games, but to start to begin to understand what we're talking about here, in Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, something new was introduced known as the Safehouse. In between each individual mission, you would go back and you would be able to talk to the various different characters who were mainstays throughout the game. Whether you wanted to talk to Park because you're a complete simp, or whether you wanted to get a little bit more backstory on Russell Adler, you were able to do this. But also, the Safehouse added to the story of the game, as you could find out backstory about the characters, or even find out a little bit more about each individual mission that you were going on. Well, in Call of Duty Black Ops 6, this once again returned. However, this one is not only shrouded in much more mystery, it has way more story behind it. Going all the way back to Call of Duty Black Ops 1, the story of this stems from that, but also includes Call of Duty Black Ops 2, the events that have taken place in Black Ops Cold War, Russell Adler, and moving into Black Ops 6 and the future of Call of Duty as well. But not only are we going to analyze that story, we're also going to look at two mysteries that are given to us from what we now know as the Rook.
Wait, I got a message for Woods.
Oh yeah?
Tell him Bishop takes Rook.
Now, we are first confused as to what this means, but of course, Woods knows exactly what he's talking about. It turns out 15 years earlier, Adler and Woods went on a mission where they found a safe house in Bulgaria with the code name of the Rook. But the question is, why was Adler sending us there? Well, you can actually find several different voice recordings throughout the Rook, or the safe house, that explain exactly what has happened and exactly why Russell Adler was there.
There was a savvy play on someone's part to frame me for the Panama fiasco last year. The topic on everyone's mind. A mole inside Langley that gift wrapped our best operatives for the Nicaraguan drug lord Raul Menendez. The papers incriminating me turned up at the exact time I started investigations into the Pantheon. Someone wanted me gone in a hurry. Well, mission accomplished. For now.
So as Russell Adler is framed for what happened in Panama, in other words, the death of Alex Mason and the crippling of Frank Woods, he is framed seemingly by Pantheon as he starts to look into them. However, this is in the year 1990. At this time, he escapes to the safe house, aka the Rook.
Daniel Livingston's been planning my retirement party for half a decade. He wants a youth movement inside the CIA. More creative and agile operatives, I recall him saying. If he wasn't the one who framed me, he sure was eager to believe the pile of horseshit that landed on his desk. He can hunt me down as long as he wants. But he'd never think to look inside a former KGB safe house, even if he knew it existed. See, Daniel, I can be creative too.
So Russell Adler escapes to the Rook, and when he does so, he continues to look into Pantheon, essentially to clear his own name. This is when he finds out about Pantheon being in Avalon, working with the crime families, and getting in contact with, of course, Savati Dumas, essentially kicking off the events of Black Ops 6.
Pantheon may be partnering with one of the major crime factions there, and potentially reaching out to others as well. I've offered a small sum to a one-time asset of mine to follow up. She has no extra grind there, so I'd be surprised if she turns me down.
So at this point, we know why Russell Adler came here, but we don't know any of the backstory of the Rook. Well, as it turns out, there's one more voice recording from Russell Adler where you might hear some recognizable names.
It seems the KGB operatives that lived and worked here in the 1960s took orders directly from Nikita Dragovich, the Soviet general that Alex Mason and Jason Hudson terminated in '68. Activities took place here without the knowledge of Soviet leadership or the KGB itself. Almost like the Russian equivalent of the Pantheon.
So just a little bit of backstory. Back in Call of Duty Black Ops 1, Nikita Dragovich brainwashed Alex Mason to become a sleeper agent. In other words, an agent within the CIA who secretly and brainwashedly, that's not a word, but let's pretend it is being controlled by Russia, and specifically Nikita Dragovich, Kravchenko, Steiner, all of those bad guys that we see in Black Ops 1. So this building was owned, or at least run, by Nikita Dragovich and his henchmen, who were working within the KGB and within the Russian government, but not being controlled by them. And in fact, as we go through some of the Easter eggs, which we'll get to in a minute, you can actually see a little bit more information about Nikita Dragovich and his henchmen.
Ilya, we received word from D. He is still in Laos with plans to depart in 3 weeks. Orders are to temporarily lock the house down while we travel to America. N6 set for February. D wants us positioned before end of year. If sleepers fail to execute orders or end up in enemy hands, we are to address the situation. Philip says he is not coming back afterwards. I share the sentiment if we are being honest.
Now, what's wild about this is this gives us so much background information on Black Ops 1, it is absolutely insane. So, when they refer to D in that letter, they are talking about Nikita Dragovich, and based off of this, we know exactly when this was written, the end of January 1968, because 3 weeks later, like it says in the letter, on February 19th, 1968, our characters, Frank Woods, Alex Mason, are in Laos, just like the letter. And who do they run into? None other than Nikita Dragovich. Why are they in Laos? Because they are tracking down Nova 6 gas, which based off of that letter explains all of the plans from Black Ops 1. They were transporting Nova 6 gas, trying to get it into America, as well as all of those Russian sleeper agents, which include Alex Mason. They were having them be in America, but they didn't know for sure whether or not they were going to work. So for the time being, our Russian agents were supposed to stay at Safehouse until the Nova 6 gas was shipped to America. They were going there, and they were going to be in America in case the sleeper agents didn't work. The Russian agents could then instead go into effect. So in a later part of the Easter egg, which again I will get to in a second, we see that there is a room set up in this bunker that is to help the Russians better understand the American culture. And part of this is what ends up giving us the code to the safe later on. So this all sets up this storyline for these Russian people under the control of Nikita Dragovich eventually going to America to help in case the sleeper agents that Dragovich has created do not pan out. Now, going back to that Easter egg that we talked about, this is actually what creates the last couple mysteries of the Rook. So if you go outside to a part of the safe house that is known as the firing range, you can go to this little shed, and inside it is a list of essentially secrets around the Rook. This is meant to help you find some of those secret passages, the bunker, and how the building actually works. For example, at the bottom it says there is a sealed bunker beneath the house. Where is it to? How to access? Now, the rest of the note, for example, investigate the piano, refers to the puzzle that you find in the piano room where you find the various different notes, which when you play them on the piano, it unlocks the door to the basement. Now, getting the furnace going is the next piece of the puzzle where you go to the furnace room, you turn it on, and then this will then unlock the door to the bunker in the basement. The next part where you crack the bedroom safe is essentially cracking the bedroom safe and completing the part of the Easter egg that is inside the bunker. Securing local ammunition sources refers to the various different upgrades that you can do inside the safe house. Contact info on Savati Dumas refers to the audio files that you can find throughout the safe house. However, there is one more piece of evidence on this to-do list that I don't understand. It says, get rid of the bats coming in through the elevator gate. Looks like the shaft to the sea cave collapsed years ago. Now, here's the thing. There is nowhere around the safe house where you can find bats. If you go to the main room where you kind of go for the safe house to start all of your missions, you can find the elevator. However, there is no way to actually access it. This is the one thing on the list that no one on the internet has found a way to complete. So I don't know if it was removed from the game. There was supposed to be more there, but there is nothing to do with this elevator. It seems as though at one point you can kind of interact with something on the roof. However, that is actually for one of the pieces of intel that is in Troy Marshall's bedroom. So in other words, this is the only thing in the Rook that I don't have an answer to. So if anyone's found anything, feel free to let me know down in the comments. Now there's various pieces of intel scattered throughout the Rook, which gives us more background information on the various different characters in the game, which I could go into in another video, maybe taking a deeper dive into some of the characters like Felix Newman, or even taking a closer look at Troy Marshall, because I truly believe there's a little bit more hidden within that character than is on the surface of Black Ops 6. However, one other thing that I found interesting about the characters around the Rook is that if you go towards the actual bunker door, the stairs that lead towards the basement, you're going to see some footsteps on the ground with your blacklight. As it turns out, these footsteps lead to Russell Adler. I never could really find a reason for that. Maybe it was to show you that there was something to interact with that door, maybe leading you towards that piano puzzle. But I always thought that was really weird that those footsteps always led towards Russell Adler. But that is not the only mystery that I wanted to talk about at the safe house, because there is one more thing. At this point, we know exactly what has gone down in the safe house. In the 60s, the KGB were here, and including Nikita Dragovich, who set up his entire brainwashing and everything like that from Bulgaria, from the Rook. Later on in the year 1990, after what happened with Russell Adler, Frank Woods, Alex Mason, as Adler is being framed by Pantheon and by the CIA, he escapes to the Rook and sets up the events of Black Ops 6. So everything that goes down with Savati Dumas, Jane Harrow, Case, and our characters throughout Black Ops 6 all goes down here. But what if there is one other thing that went down? You see, when I first came to this location and I started to explore the area, there was one section of the Rook that looked incredibly familiar. You see, as you go and look over the cliffs leading towards the Black Sea, this scenery begins to look very, very familiar. Let me know if you see any resemblance.
Arctic air. There's the head, doesn't it? Bell, you made two extraordinary sacrifices to stop Perseus. One was without your knowledge. The other, you made that decision of your own accord. I just want you to know that this little thing that's happened with you and me, it was always for the greater good. You're a goddamn hero, you know that, kid. Heroes have to make sacrifices. That's why when I ask you for one more, I hope you understand. It was never personal.